Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Wow, it feels really weird to be saying that because I haven't said that for like 3 months. I'm slightly worried about the audio for this video because I meant to turn on my microphone and I must have left it in the on position for too long, so now the battery's dead and I cannot for the life of me just release the lever thing that allows me to take the battery out and put the battery back in, the new battery back in. So that's great, that's a wonderful stumbling block. But yeah, I just wanted to come back and say hello and just talk about some of the books that I have been reading. Well, really what I'm going to do is talk about how many books I've read during the time that I haven't been here, and talk about some DNFs, or potential DNFs, and then also show you some books that I got when I went home. So I did visit London probably about 2 to 3 weeks by the time this video goes up, 2 to 3 weeks ago. So I just wanted to show you some of the books that I will also be rereading in the next couple of months. So I guess actually one of the good things I can update you on is my dissertation. So I did manage to finish my dissertation. Whew, that last week of my dissertation of handing it in, I worked harder probably than I have throughout the whole 3 or 4 months. I don't know why I'm like this. I'm just like, Cassandra, this work that you're putting in this week, if you've done that before, this dissertation would be finished and fine. You wouldn't be doing it to the last minute. So yeah, I actually got a really good grade for my dissertation. I got 72%, but because I handed it in a day late, it was knocked down to 69%. But you know what? I'm taking that because the references were a hot mess. And I knew if I handed those references in the state it was in, I would have got so many marks knocked off. And the feedback from the references were that they were meticulous. So I'm just like, I'm going to take that. So I got a really good grade. For those of you who don't know, I don't know if I said in that original video, but my dissertation was on the marketing strategies used to promote Black British authors. So yes, of course it was quite timely with the Black Lives Matter, but I did actually choose this subject last year to focus on. So that was really good. It was really good to just sort of research different strategies used to market Black British authors. There's a lot of research out there about how books by minority authors are sort of selected, and actually during the time when I wrote my dissertation, a really good report came out about sort of acquiring books, commissioning books, also the marketing of books and the promotion and stuff like that. So it was really good to actually kind of not find the bias I was expecting to find. For example, there is this paper that talks about this is actually based on South Asian writers, to be fair, but comparing them to Monica Ali and just saying this is the next Brick Lane and stuff like that. So I was expecting to find that sort of bias, but actually in the research that I did, I didn't come across any of that. But anyway, that's all done and out of the way. I finished my degree. I'm probably due to graduate in November. I don't really know much about it other than the actual physical graduation has been postponed to next year. Not sure when, not sure if that'll even go, if I'm honest, but that's all done and dusted with. So yeah, during the time that I haven't been on BookTube, I have read 19 books, and I thought I would just share with you actually what I'm currently reading, because I will just do separate videos on the books that I did read and whether they were good, bad, or just, sort of middle and average. So at the moment I am currently reading, I think, 3 books? Yes, 3 books. So the first is a NetGalley arc, which is called Monogamy by Sue Miller. I'm nearly done with this. By the time this video goes up, I definitely would have been done with it. Not enjoying it as much as I thought I would, simply because of the blurb and what the actual content is of the book. I'm just reading this and I'm I don't actually actively dislike it. I just wish I wasn't reading the book, because I'm this is not what I thought it would be. And whilst this is a little bit interesting, I don't really care about any of these characters, so I don't really understand. It's very much like literary fiction, and these characters are having really sort of day-to-day conversations, but these conversations sort of occur during dinner parties, or just they're having thoughts about life, which are quite nice, but it's this is not the book I thought I was reading, so I just don't really care to read any of this. The other book that I'm reading is I'm Telling the Truth But I'm Lying by Bassey Ikpi. This is a collection of essays based on her diagnosis of bipolar 2 and anxiety. I've only read the first 2 essays, and I have to be honest, I'm not really that into it. I hope that as I read it, it gets a little bit better, but yeah, at the moment I'm just kind of this is not what I thought it would be. When I ordered this, I actually ordered Kiese Laymon's Heavy, and I'm really excited to get to this. I was placing an order for some other stuff, some sort of necessities, and I was right, I need to pick 2 books that have sort of published this year, or this published last year rather. But I really wanted to pick up 2 books that I've been excited to read, and just make sure that I get to them. So I will be definitely getting to heavy soon. The other book that I'm also reading or rather listening to is Appointment with Death by Agatha Christie on Scribd. As you know, I just love listening to the Agatha Christie books on Scribd, and I'm just making my way through the Poirot catalogue. We're actually nearly done with the Poirot ITV series. I spoke about this series in my sort of like finding comfort in Poirot. We decided, because the last couple of episodes in the series are actually like kind of full-length movie-like in a way, we decided to just ration them out to every Friday. So every Friday when my boyfriend gets back from work, we've been like putting that on and just having a really good Friday. I think we've got about 3 episodes left before we reach the end, and it will be really sad. So yeah, I've still been listening to that. And the next book that I'm going to pick up, because what I've been finding with my reading is I'm very much able to read a non-fiction book alongside a fiction book as well as an audiobook. So the next book I'm going to pick up is this book, which is Back to Black, Retelling Black Radicalism for the 21st Century by Kehinde. If you recall my books to read for Black History Month last year, I spoke about this book and I was going to read it then. I did not read it then. So I'm definitely going to read it this month, because you know it's Black History Month in the UK. I just haven't picked it up. I thought I was going to pick it up like about 2 weeks ago and I just didn't get around to it, but I think definitely this weekend I'm going to make it a priority and pick this one up. So then I thought I'd talk to you about some DNFs. Now, I basically have 2 books that are on my sort of Goodreads that I have been reading for a while that I'm just a bit unsure of continuing with. So the first I'll speak about is this book. This is Kingdom of Souls by Rena Barron. This is a proof copy, so it's not the actual front cover, and this is a fantasy sort of, I think it's a trilogy, so I think there might be 2 other books coming in it, or maybe it's a series, I don't know, so there's like tons of other books coming. And this is set in West Africa, and it's about a girl who, like, I guess the world that she lives in, once you like get your period or something, you get your magic or something like that. It's something along those lines, and she doesn't get that, so then it's sort of about her trade-off with her magic. There's these sort of charlatans, I suppose, that you can barter with to get some sort of trade of magic, but it takes off like years of your life, and the gamble with that is you don't know if that takes 40, 10, blah blah blah. But yeah, she comes from a family, her mum and dad are both like magicians per se. They come from 2 different tribes, and actually technically she should be very powerful, but she isn't. Basically there's a mystery going on where children are going missing in their village, and it's just basically trying to find out who is taking those missing children. And yeah, the premise was okay for me. I'm not really a fantasy reader. I say not really, I'm not a fantasy reader. I guess the trouble I'm having with this book is I've reached a point in the book, and if you want to read this then please don't listen to the next section because it will be a spoiler. I've reached a point in the book where her mum has put her curse on her. So I mentioned previously that there is someone stealing children away, and that person she finds out is her mum. So once she finds that out, her mum puts a curse on her where she can't speak out against her, which, you know, is quite cool. So, you know, it doesn't mean, what is quite nice about the curse is basically just anything that the mum feels might be said against her, then she can't physically open like her mouth and say, I think it makes like her chest swell and things like that, but she can obviously speak and maybe leave like really cryptic hints and stuff like that. But her mum has put this curse on her, so she can't like speak out against it, and she's bartered away for the magic that was in order to find out who was taking those children. And I'm just like, well, if you can't speak and you can't tell your mum, what's the point of the rest of the story? Like, I know obviously she's going to overcome this adversity, but I can't suspend my disbelief and go along with the story, so I'm just a bit like, meh. And also one thing I don't like about this book, and it's something I noticed when I started reading instantly, there are so many chapters in this book and nothing of significance happens in many of the chapters. So I really wish, actually, instead of having all these small little chapters, it was just one major chapter, because then I could sort of gel with the vibe of the book. But actually I'm reading all these mini chapters and I'm like, what is the significance of this particular scene? There is nothing there for me. So yeah, I'm not really enjoying this book. I just don't know if I'm just going to completely give it up and just not read it, or if I should just push through and read it. So yeah, I'm just still on the fence about that, but I think I haven't picked this up for like 3 weeks. Even when I went back down to London, I thought, oh, maybe I'll take this, I can take it on the train and I can just blast through it then. And then I was just like, I'd rather just read a book that I really like, so I kind of put this one to the side. The other book that I'm sort of considering DNFing, or maybe I will just pick it up later in the year, it probably is going to be in 2021 to be honest, is Brave New World. I started buddy reading this with Pauline from Dancing Lawn, but then she went ahead and read the rest of the book, and I'm just not really sure that I want to go back and reread it. I didn't dislike the book. I think actually originally when I read it my rating was 4 stars. It's just I wouldn't have picked it up otherwise. I'm a bit like, oh, can I be bothered to finish this off? So maybe I'll finish it off another time. But those are sort of 2 books that yeah, they're on my sort of DNF list. The final thing that I wanted to show you is a couple of books that I picked up when I went home. There was just a couple of books I knew that were on my shelves that I really wanted to reread. The first two I'm going to show are just poetry collections, because if you have seen my video from way back in January about my reading goals, you'll know that one of my goals is to read a poetry collection every month. I've kind of managed that. Like, that goal is probably like 70% of the way there, but I knew I had poetry collections on myself that I really wanted to like just reread. I think I'm going to buy myself one more poetry collection this year, and then I can just reread what I have. So the first one is I Hope This Reaches Her in Time. This is by R.H. Sim, I think. It's not actually got the name on the front, but I really like this. Again, this is a bit of like Insta poetry. I say it again, I haven't talked about Insta poetry at all, so why would I say again? But yeah, this is a bit like Insta poetry, but I really just enjoy this. Like, it's really nice. It's about relationships and heartbreak, and it's very sweet. And sweet is not the right word, but it's just a vibe that I vibe to. So I really wanted to give this another reread. I'll put this here. And the next one, this is actually a long poem. From Tempest, and it's called Let Them Eat Chaos. I just haven't read it in a really long time, so I wanted to reread it and see what it's like. I think I have my other book by Tempest up on here, and I really, for the life of me, cannot remember what it's called. It's called Running Upon the Wire, and I really want to reread one of her novels, which is The Bricks That Built the Houses. I have that on my Kindle, so I think I'm going to definitely give that a reread. I'm not sure why I'm in the space for a reread. Actually, I do know why. I'll talk about it in a second, but yeah, I want to read this. This is a long poem. I can't remember what it's about. It's written for live performance and heard on the album released with the same name. It's both a powerful sermon and a moving play for voices. 7 neighbours inhabit the same London street but are all unknown to each other. Yes, I remember this. This has like a really nice storm in the background or something. Yeah. The clock freezes in the small hours, and one by one we directly see into their lives. Lives that are damaged, disenfranchised, lonely, broken, addicted. Then a great storm breaks over London and brings them out into the night to face each other and offers them a chance to connect. Yes, I really, really like this now that I'm remembering it. It was so good. And I feel like The Bricks That Built the Houses is kind of written in a similar style to this. It is about people in London and their lives and how they sort of connect. They might not connect, but I feel like they do connect. But yeah, the reason why I'm kind of vibing with rereads at the moment, I might actually have to change the battery on my camera, so if this cuts out, here we go. The reason I'm into rereads at the moment is I reread A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. I cannot remember what her surname is. Oh, it's not coming up on my rereads. It's not coming off my rereads, but actually I think that means I read 20 books during this time. That was it, but I reread that book anyway. I'll put her name across the screen, and I loved it so much. Oh my god. So for our anniversary, my boyfriend got me a Kindle Fire, and I got the Kindle app obviously, and I had to re-download all the books. So then it was just like bringing me all these books that just brought back memories, and I've been wanting to read A Little Life, reread it again for such a long time. I think I first read it in 2016, and I was completely floored by it. Like, I think it's about a £700 book, £700? 700-page book. And honestly, I fell in love with her writing. I fell in love with the world. It was phenomenal. Like, honestly, like, to read a book that is just like so far away from any experience you have, because the book is about 4 men, so far away in New York, and just sort of out of the world. Around the world, sorry, in roles that I will never do in my life, experiencing things that I just will never experience. For something like that, I just fell in love. Like, I was so into it, and it's like when I read books like that, I'm like, give me more of this. So I reread that. I was kind of skeptical about rereading it because I heard, like, since being back on YouTube, a lot of people talk about the book and describe it as pain porn and just talk about, I don't know, certain aspects of the book, and I thought, you know what, if I reread that, I don't know if I'd like it. But anyway, I reread it. I freaking loved it, honestly. I think I actually only knocked it back down. I originally gave it 5 stars, and I knocked it down to 4 stars. And when I do my sort of review of books that I read during the time that I was away, I will talk about that. But yeah, that really got me started on some other books that I really wanted to reread, and so I picked up a couple when I was at home. I'm just trying to see if I've got all of them. So yeah, I picked up a couple. The first one that I'm going to speak about is The Four Agreements by Miguel Ruiz. I just really like the sort of philosophy and thinking behind this book. I think there was just things in here that I really wanted to remind myself of. Just for simple ease, The Four Agreements. Be impeccable with your word, don't take anything personally, don't make assumptions, and always do your best. I really wanted to just like reread this, so I took this back when I was at home. The next one is Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. I really enjoyed this when I read it the first time. I think it just gave me such a sense of purpose, and I don't feel purposeless at the moment. I just think in order to drive me to do some of the things that I want to do, I really want to reread this. I just felt so inspired when I read this, and I really do enjoy Elizabeth Gilbert's writing. So obviously I've read Eat, Pray, Love, but I think last year I also read her other book, City of Girls. I didn't enjoy that as much. It was, you know, it was historical fiction. It was completely on like something that I would never really pick up if it hadn't been for her, but I did think it was okay. It was nice to see her writing something else. I haven't picked up any of her other work, but this I really did enjoy. And in the realm of like more spiritual books, so obviously the Four Agreements is quite spiritual, whatever. The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, A Guide to Spiritual Enlightenment. I read this ages ago. I think there's actually 2 other books in this series or something like that, and I have those as well. I just really wanted to read this and see what it's like. Again, one of my reading goals is to read like sort of more self-help books, but I find like the new ones, like I don't know, I don't really find new self-help books that I actually really like. I like stuff in the vein of this, and actually these have all been published like ages ago, so I can just pick up some old backlist titles. So I decided to pick this up and give it a good read. And then finally, the last book I picked up was Sundowners by Leslie Loco. I love this book. So obviously in the same vein, I think, how many pages is this? It's about 651 pages, maybe 700. No, I don't think it quite reaches the 700 mark. 654 pages. Leslie Loco is one of my favourite authors. I must have got this like online or in a charity shop, I don't know. But I haven't read her work in ages, and I just really enjoyed these really long reads where we have like these, we follow 4 characters and we follow their lives and the friendship, and this is kind of what this book is. So it's about 4 women: Rianne, Gabriella, Natalie, I think it might be Natalie in this one, Charmaine. And I think they all meet like in a boarding school in South Africa, and then it spans across a really huge time in their lives, like when they're moving to London and doing other things, facing so many things in their lives. And I really just want to get stuck into a big book and be with a bunch of characters for a long time, so that's why I picked this up, and I really do like her writing. So that is it for this video. I'm just looking at my laptop thinking, when is this going to cut out? So that's it for this video. It's really nice to be back and talking about books. I have a whole plan for a whole range of videos, but I actually think just because of when I've come back, I'll probably do a couple of videos obviously talking about what I read whilst I was away, but then I'm going to have to start doing videos sort of talking about my reading goals, but in the middle of that there will be like other videos coming out. But yeah, let me know what you've been reading, let me know how you've been doing during this time, and I'll catch you in another video. Bye!